When I see them, I hug them once. I never look at them the whole day. I go, how the heck you let your kid come out like that? They're in grade 7, they're in grade 8, they're in grade 9. It makes me uncomfortable. But they're happy to do that. They're looking for those clothes. But you as a parent are the one swiping the credit card.
What they wanted to see was, well, I went up there and I read right off paper. I started reading off the paper because I needed to have it written, because now I was standing in front of the judge and the judge was here and I was here and that table right there, and my dad was on the other side of the table. And he was chained. He was chained. But I knew that if they let me get through what I got to say, he's probably going to lose it, because I basically called him out for everything he did to me in my life. And I even had instances written down. But the problem is he didn't let me get through it all. And when he lost it, he started yelling, screaming, he stood up. And I turned around and looked at the judge like, stop this? And the judge was sitting there like this. That I thought about jumping over the rail there and going after him, because now he wants to put me on the stand. And at that point it was, if I have to get up on the stand, I'm gonna bury him. But they wanted to see how he was. They knew how he was on the street. The judge wanted the court to see how he was as a father.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Millennial's Choice Show. We're so happy to be here with you guys today. And we are in Chicago. You might have been watching some of the episodes we've been dropping recently. And we heard you. We heard you. You guys love panels. You love us putting different people together and hearing their stories and how people bounce ideas off of each other. So we have another panel for you guys today. And today we've got Joey Seifert and Kurt Calabrese. They're not new to our channel. This isn't their first time, but we're going to go down a very deep dive of how the Chicago outfit and how their families' involvements and their involvements have really, really impacted their lives and impacted the lives of those around them. And we want to hear from them. And this is going to be a first. Is it a first for you guys to be on a panel? Yeah. It's a first for them. So Joey, Kurt, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Good to see you, Kurt.
Good to see you too, Joe.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Exactly. Long time no see.
Yeah.
How did you guys get in touch? How did you guys meet each other?
Go ahead.
You want me to tell?
Yeah. You're a better talker, Joe.
So I'm in the production end of shooting documentaries and stuff like that. And I was talking to one of the kids from one of the neighborhoods. I'll just leave it at that. And had him in there and talking for a while, and everything was fine. I don't know. Listening to his story and tell his story, or tell parts of it, and he was interested in doing something. Documentary, book, something along those lines. And everything was fine. He left. So I didn't think anything about it. And I don't even know, a couple days, a week,
Something like that. Yeah.
goes by, and I get a private message from Kurt. Can we talk for a second?
And you didn't know him at this time.
Well, I knew him, but I didn't. It's not like we're best friends or we talked or anything. Yeah, you know. So sure. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody. I really. That's just how I am. So I said, sure. Now you pick it up.
And we met. We talked. I felt like I knew Joey my whole life. I really did. By sitting with him once, twice, I felt like I've known him my whole life. I felt more comfortable talking to Joey than I have people that I've known my whole life. So I don't have that, I don't feel that way about people that much anymore, because I'm not really out and about. I kind of keep to myself. So, but it was just, he's a remarkable guy and great friend, and he's very good at what he does, and he had a really rough go of it in life.
I think that's why we have gotten along well, is because we like to say we've had similar lives, but we really haven't. But there's stuff like I tell my wife, I'm like, I need to talk to Kurt. Because Kurt is like somebody you can talk to, and stuff that I need to talk about, I can only talk to him about. And it kind of just bounces back and forth, because we do have there are similarities, and there's just stuff that when somebody else has gone through similar things, you just immediately connect, you know.
I feel like sometimes when you're just going on that journey of, I want to either just vent this thing that's going on up here or search for an answer, a solution. Can't do that with everyday people that haven't walked in your shoes or gone through a similar experience.
Or raised the way you were. Like,
Yeah.
you were raised a certain way of how to act or respect or that whole thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Because like we can, I'd like to think Danny and I are different. We don't judge. Like we can't, there's no room in us to judge because we've all done wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no judgment there. So people will tell us, you make us feel comfortable. But at the same time, we may not have walked in your shoes or gone through that. So if we're going to console somebody, I should say, then it's going to be from our worldview. And perhaps that's not what someone's looking for. Or sometimes you just want to speak with Kurt probably, or Kurt vice versa, just so you listen to each other. Just listen. You don't even want a solution. You just want to listen. But like what are some of those conversations like when you have those moments?
I mean, it depends. For me, it's always comes down to how we are raised or just general respect or, you know, why is this guy out telling stories when he shouldn't be out telling stories and stuff, you know, stuff more like that. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff with being a father and fatherhood and how he was raised with a father. And I don't want to speak for you, but it was an unfortunate situation. And I was raised for a long time without a father. So we kind of bounce that back and forth and talk about our own kids and how raising them is challenging in different ways. Or we had a conversation about our daughters. And I'm like, we need to get our daughters together because I will tell you right now, we'll be able to get up and leave because our daughters are going to go back. Oh, does your dad do this? Does your dad do this? And they're just going to roll back and forth with, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of similar things. And a lot of times there's no reason for us to do it. It's just because it's like in us and that's just how we are. And like we've transferred some of that stuff, I guess, unwillingly or unknowingly into our children. You know, anxiety and stuff like that about the world, you know, and there's things that are out there you have to be careful of. And, you know, you don't want to make your kids so nervous that they can't go out, but you do sometimes when you've walked a different, you know, been down a different road.
It's like Curry, you mentioned in our episode together, it's like it's the reality. Like there's people out there that's what they do. They wake up, they might brush their teeth, and then they got to go kill somebody. Or, I don't know, break somebody's legs. They owe them money, whatever. And especially with, like, recently, all the dirt that's coming out with human trafficking and having a girl, like, I have one girl, one boy. Like, you can say that before you have children, I would kill for my children one day or my wife or whatever, right? When you have children, it's not even, it's like, don't even ask me that stupid question anymore. It's goes without saying.
Did you ever see the video there's a video that goes around and they're asking all the moms, would you kill for your kid?
I've never seen it, no.
Yeah, it's on, I don't know, it's probably TikTok or something like that. And my wife started laughing. She goes, I'm glad they didn't ask you that.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'll erase your bloodline if you do something to my children, you know? So it's just a different life, I guess, yeah.
How many children do you have?
4.
All girls or?
4 grandkids. 3 grandkids? 3 grandkids.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, awesome.
Are all your children girls?
No, 1 girl.
1 girl, 3 boys?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kurt, you have 1 girl?
I have 2 girls,
2 girls.
a son and 2 daughters.
Amazing.
Nice.
And I'm very, very protective, as again Joey is, and you know, it's with him and I. There's just an understanding that, I mean, I could sit and talk to this guy about anything, and feel comfortable, and I think it's a mutual respect too because of what we went through each other differently, but you know, it's I don't know, I don't find that in people anymore. I'm not saying it's not out there, but when you do meet somebody like that and you have that, it's at my age, it's unheard of. I mean, meet somebody that you feel like you know your whole life.
Yeah, it's hard to meet people and just instantly feel like you don't have to be guarded about anything, because they're going to understand what you're saying, or they're going to understand it from a perspective, or they're going to challenge you and say, are you really seeing it that way? Or,
We had that same conversation last night over tequila with one of our cousins. Honestly, he asked us a question about something within our family. Now, this is our real cousin. You met one of them, the wife. Mm-hmm. They're real cousins. They're blood. We're staying with them, right? And I just said to him, I go, look, they're afraid to put their dirt out there, but it's not dirt. It's just like a little family drama thing. And I go, because they think you're going to judge them. I go, but what they do instead is they sweep it under the rug. Yeah. And the same old crap keeps coming up within the family. I go, I'm not like that. That's why I argue with them a lot. Or if something, I don't put myself in the situation. I avoid it. We avoid it now. Yeah. But when we're in that situation, it's like, guys, we're family. Let's figure it out. Nothing bad happened.
I get myself in trouble a lot for that because I'm very direct.
Same. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, my words are too direct, and it sometimes it'll hurt your feelings. But it's very direct. It's like, let's just deal with it and get out of it. Because I feel if I don't, I feel like it's just my whole life. I'm just dragging just another anchor with me, Like, let's just get out of it, deal with it, and move on.
It's like the cracks in the foundation, right? Mm-hmm. If they're not repaired, then eventually the whole house will fall.
Yep.
And so you need to repair it and you need to find a solution for it. And if there is no solution, we've all met crazy people, someone that they wouldn't listen to reason, right? We have that in our families too. And it's like, after you try, maybe once or twice, for me, if I find that person's no longer listening, I pull myself out of the situation.
Sure.
But at the same time, I keep praying for that person because there's a wall there. There's some sort of wall. Like, we can't understand it. There's a wall there that the message is not coming across, or they can't hear you. That saying, it falls on deaf ears.
So I learned a valuable lesson from my father-in-law about a situation like that, where if you're talking to somebody and they're just not getting it, or instead of you getting aggravated about it, he just says, God bless. Yeah. God bless him. And that's it. He leaves it alone.
It's powerful.
It's like a standing joke with me and my wife. Just like, God bless him.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best just to, walk away from that.
Right. Why you put your energy to it?
There's no point.
Right.
Yeah. Especially when they just don't care as well too. You find someone's apathetic. They just don't care. They just don't want to receive your message, whatever you're trying to give them. Then why would you waste your energy into trying to force it down their throat?
I did that with my sister. Yeah. Cut her. I don't talk to her anymore.
Wow.
Because it was just a constant butting heads, and that was it.
Yeah.
At some point, you gotta say enough's enough, right? But Joey's a very direct guy. I wish I was more direct like he is. He's very direct, which I respect, because you need that. Everybody needs that. And he speaks from his heart, and the mutual respect that we have for each other, and what we know, and it's hard to explain, but they don't have that, with people that anymore. And meeting somebody at 62 years old or 61 years old.
Wait, I'm only 54.
I'm talking about me. You're younger.
I was going to say.
I'm a little younger. Hold on now.
But it's hard, and throw your life in there and how you lived, and he understands that. It's like nobody understands that. I mean, I don't talk to anybody or kids that are involved, or parents were involved in that life. I don't see any of them. All the people that I was around are all mostly dead. So, it's like, but when you meet somebody that you can drop your guard with, you can talk to, you can relate to, your kids can relate to, to me, you don't find it. And that's what's special to me. One of the special things about our relationship, our friendship, is, I can't even talk to either one of my brothers like I could talk to Joe. Oh. So, it's unique. It's unique, and it's not, and it's very nice. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for him. He's everything he's went through and everything he's done, coming out of it. he's very sharp guy and gives great advice.
I think the other thing that's great about us is that we're going through a lot of the same thing at the same time. Like I've worked on myself a little bit through PTSD and everything else. And Kurt's starting to work on stuff. So it's like I have a little knowledge on it, but we're still working on stuff like that together. So that kind of helps too. It's kind of almost like a sponsor.
Yeah.
Like you have somebody that's going to hold you accountable. You know, did you do this? Why not? You know.
That's huge. You're going through that that voyage together, right?
Yeah.
And you have each other's backs, which is huge. And I kind of wanted to I just thought of this right now. With your unique experiences, right, and upbringings, what's the most challenging thing that you've found as fathers? Is it something that's similar? Have you guys found something similar that's very challenging that you guys talk about?
I know I have.
Yeah, well, we both have. I mean,
My challenges are
yeah.
I have this very old world mentality of respect. Don't disrespect me. Like you'll get one, you know, if it's my kids, you'll get a shot or two, but after that, like I think that's one thing that I have to work. I have to be more compassionate to the younger generation. That they're just not they're not raised the same way. And my respect comes from not just from where I was born and who I was raised by, but then it goes into as I got older, I got involved with other people. I got involved with motorcycle clubs. Respect's a huge thing. Like you don't disrespect people, and if you do, you're gonna fight, or worse. But most of the time, you're gonna fight. You know. So for me, I think that's one of the things that I have to work on to kind of like, hey, relax. It's just a kid. They're just they made a dumb choice, or yeah, I know you told them to do something 17 times. Give them an 18th try. You know. That's something that I need to work on for sure.
Well, I do too. I mean, we bounce this off each other when we talk, and the advice of, hey, you know what? Because it's nice to hear somebody. It's nice to know that somebody cares enough, and with the complex post-traumatic stress disorder, Joey's there whenever I need to talk, and it's. Again, it's picking up the phone and calling somebody who isn't going to judge you, is not going to say, what's wrong? What are you, crazy? Just, hey, listen, why don't you try this? He sends me videos. So, I mean, he's a good friend. He's a good man. And the respect thing, that's huge with us. Because we talk about it all the time. Because there isn't respect anymore. What people call respect isn't respect. It's like
it's very different.
It's and again, that's lost. I think that's lost in the world because, same with common sense. People can't think for themselves.
That's
anymore.
a big one for me.
Not so common anymore.
Yeah, it's not so common, and it's scary to me because I don't think I would have got through life without common sense. I think I'd be dead without common sense.
I cannot tell you how many times either one of my sons have done something, and I said, "You would have never done that or lasted more than 3 seconds." And when I was a kid, without getting cracked across the room. I said, it's a completely different life now,
But why do you guys think that is with this newer generation? Why do you think there is that lack of common sense or lack of respect
social media
for other people? You think social media
is huge. Yeah. And then you get all of the shows that come out, all the reality shows where it's funny to be an asshole or a jag off to people.
Yeah.
And who's Mike Tyson's the most famous,
Yeah.
You get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
You think it's funny until you get cracked in the mouth. Nowadays, who punches people? I mean, not too many.
Yeah. You get caught on camera.
Right.
Right.
But the sad thing is that if you never got punched in the face, you got to know what it feels like in order to think about not doing what you did the time to get punched in the face.
Right.
Discipline.
And you need some discipline.
You can't.
And discipline isn't always hitting somebody. I mean, you don't have to hit somebody, but there has to be repercussions to your actions.
So
they have to learn that.
So, like other parts of the world, like you look at Russia, for example, you can't pull the shenanigans that on TikTok or on YouTube are very popular to watch. We zone out sometimes. We watch them. You can't pull that there.
Right.
You could die on the street. They don't play around, and that's because you look at their roots. Soviet Russia was 50 years ago. It wasn't that long time. and they were scared. They've seen stuff. They've seen what it could be.
Right.
So they don't play around. They don't fool around, right? But social media, it's the era of internet gangsters, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that you say on
Keyboard
social,
warriors.
the stuff they say to like on our videos with, I'm just gonna drop a name, Sammy the Bull. You would never, ever, ever say that if you were just even living in the same state or like state as him. Like you probably wouldn't say those things.
Yeah.
And I read like a negative comment to Sammy. It was part of this thing we did on the show. And I told Sammy ahead of time. I didn't tell him what the comment was, but I said, I'm going to read some negative comments. Don't shoot the messenger. He's like, yeah, no problem. Go ahead. And the first time we rewatched the video and we repeated the comment, and this guy Sammy looked at Danny like, did this guy just actually read that comment?
I'm like, there's no way we're walking out of here alive, honestly.
It was a very
like,
bad comment.
Yeah.
But he had a laugh at it. He was a good sport about it.
Yeah.
But the day that you would say something like that to a guy like that. So the point is, the screen, but being behind the screen, has empowered people. And some people use it for good, and some people use it for bad. We're here because we used it for good.
Well, you'll see it on, you had Paul on, and he runs one of the larger mob pages, I'll call it, on Facebook, and you get people on there all the time.
Saying all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of just crazy shit.
I feel like for the younger generation, though, they just have so much time on their hands. I feel like it wasn't like how like we were kids. When we were kids, well, me and my brother, our parents owned a convenience store. They would always take us with them. They would never really leave us home alone.
There's no such thing as daycare.
They would just they would just bring us with them to work, and we just were there, and they would go shopping for things like that, and we just were there watching and learning and all this stuff. And I'm sure for you guys too, when you were kids, you just didn't have all the time in the world like these kids have now. So now they're bored. Now they're like, well, what's the newest TikTok trend?
Right.
How are we going to go and, do this and this? And there's like even some kids on Matthew Street. They were like just doing pranks on
One
people.
guy did the TikTok pranks. I haven't seen, I'm actually not on TikTok. I shouldn't say that. I don't have it on my phone, but someone manages it for me. But apparently there was a TikTok where they were playing Nicky Nicky Nine Doors in our area.
What's that, like Ding Dong Ditch?
Yeah, Ding Dong
Dong
Ditch.
Oh, yeah,
Ditch,
you don't
yeah.
do that. Yeah.
And so like
Especially these days.
Yeah.
In
Everyone's
these
on
days, you'll
edge.
get shot.
Yeah.
So
two doors down, allegedly, the guy came out with a weapon and scared them. And now he's facing a whole boatload of charges.
Sure.
He is.
Yeah.
But they were just kids, but he didn't know his car was stolen off the lot recently, and there's a lot of carjackings happening where we are. And so, and some people are like, no, good, he should have taught the kids a lesson. That was a bit extreme with the weapon and stuff. But when we were younger, I remember drying my hands at like a banquet hall. Just drying my hands, remember?
Yeah.
And the guy came in, he's like, what are you doing wetting the floor? Boom! Smacked me. And he's from the same community we're from. But like, if I went and told my dad would have got pissed off at him.
Sure.
But that was because it was very unnecessary. I was drying my hands and the water was coming on. It was the old dryer. You push the button and remember, and all the water goes down.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that was back in the day, if someone you guys knew, like maybe your uncle or someone, he did something wrong, he saw you and he disciplined you, your parents would be okay with that. There's no sense of that community anymore, right? Like these kids going around doing that, if you're the parent and there's carjackings happening, people are on edge, there's anxiety, don't do that. Right. Like if those kids came to my house.
Well, it comes back to the parents.
It goes back to the parents.
Raise your children.
And so do you guys ever say like when you just mentioned you grew up with a father, and we've heard your story and the abuse and all that. Like, do you ever talk and just say like, we still have anxiety, we still have PTSD, and just different backgrounds but similar at the same time?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, isn't that a interesting thought?
It is, and it's different enough, but similar enough.
Exactly.
And my take on the whole respect thing and how the kids are acting and stuff, and again, my opinion, but I've said this to many people. The parents out there now, the younger parents out there now, weren't raised by their parents the right way.
Right.
So now that parent is going to raise a kid, and they don't know the parent doesn't know what they're doing. So how does the kid have a chance when the parents have no clue and don't care? You've got both parents working now. You've got, it's not. There's no family system anymore. There's no, God, we had dinner every Sunday. All that stuff is all dead and gone.
Oh man, I missed that.
And it's stuff that shouldn't be gone. It should still be here because that's what families were built on.
Well, now a lot of times you got the parents trying to do the TikTok crap too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But Sunday dinners,
forget about it.
oh man, it was an all day event. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
We still do that.
Yeah.
Like we go to my mom's on Sunday after church.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Never
Get to
stop.
see them. No, we love it.
Yeah.
We enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard someone say something and it resonated really well. They said, there's no such thing as bad kids, just bad parents.
Absolutely.
I'm like, wow, that's so true because kids are blank canvases, right?
Right.
They're just completely blank. They're going to just watch and absorb.
And I think nowadays too, you have a lot of broken homes.
Yeah.
So you don't have both parents. Or sometimes you're trying to take two families and put them together and make everything work. And, that's hard too.
Yeah, big time.
That has its challenges as well.
And then the parents are competing for the attention of the kid and
The
their own
attention, or
self-interests.
you're
Yeah.
not disciplining enough. I'm disciplining too much. And,
Right.
it's a challenging thing.
The parents are acting like kids.
Yes.
Like I said, how does a kid have a shot when the parent has no clue what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So we see even our little cousins sometimes, and the way they dress, the girls.
Yeah, the girls. Yeah.
When I see them, I hug them once. I never look at them the whole day. I go, how the heck can you let your kid come out like that?
Mm-hmm.
And they're in grade 7. They're in grade 8.
Yeah.
They're in grade 9. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Forget about them. It makes me uncomfortable. But they're happy to do that. They're looking for those clothes. But you as a parent are the one swiping the credit card.
But the parent's the one that doesn't want to say, they don't want to say no.
Right.
You can't look like her over there or her over there. They don't want to say no.
Which goes back
Because
to
then you get to the bullying and crap like that.
Yes. Which is another
Completely separate.
separate thing.
Yeah.
The one time one guy disrespected my mom, it was a pizza delivery guy. And he brought 2 pizzas. And as he comes up the stairs, he clips the step, falls, the pizza falls. One of them was okay. The other one was all over the porch. So I went out. I'm like, well, my mom was there. She went out first, and then I just went to the door. And we're like, it's okay, buddy. Give us the one that's okay. And we won't pay for it, but like, go back and get us the other pizza. We'll wait. Like, it's not a big deal. Anyways, we're inside. We're eating the pizza that's okay. The other one's garbage. And we get a phone call from the company. They're like, how come you didn't pay our driver? I'm like, he fell. He dropped the pizza. We're waiting for a new one. And he never even had the drinks that we ordered. Mm-hmm. He didn't even have those with him. And he goes, that's not what he said. He said your mom took them from him. She dropped it. Blah, blah. I'm like, now I'm a Middle Eastern who's hungry.
Yeah.
That's bad. Okay, I'm hangry. And I'm like, bro, take the pizza. Go. I'm going to the store. Go to the store. I see this little weasel over there. And I'm like, come here. I'm like, tell your boss what happened. Why are you lying? He's like, I didn't lie. He's like, your mom lied. As soon as he did that, the box was open. I threw that pizza right on his face.
Yeah.
I felt like such a shitty person. And he disrespected me. We weren't raised like that. Violence. You respect your teachers.
I don't know. I would have felt okay throwing it at him.
No, I felt like
I would have scraped the one off the ground and threw that one at him too.
I felt like shit. And
Yeah.
when I walked away, my little cousin was with me and he laughed. He's one of these kids. So he laughed. And then that night I got 2 cops visiting the house.
Yeah.
And the cop goes, why would you do that? He's like, you could have got a lifetime of pizza for free. And the other guy wanted to arrest me. It was a good cop, bad cop scenario. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, officer, like, I have a professional business. I'm not like that. And, I don't know what got into me. Just disrespected my mom and we were hungry.
Yeah.
That's what got into
And but the thing that saved me was as I walked away, he threw something at me and it hit my foot. So if we were going to go down that road,
Yeah.
we could have also, I'm not pressed charges, but like not sued the company, but kind of made a complaint or
that.
whatever.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah, exactly.
You could have sued him.
Yeah. But I felt like shit doing that.
Right.
So it's like, I can't understand how some kids act the way they act and they're walking around with such freedom up here that there's no accountability. Again, back to accountability.
Accountability. There
And
you
I
go.
think pulling God out of the equation too, like we used to be scared the priest would like cut our tongues out or something. My dad would say that if you swear or do something, the priest will cut your tongue. It was, if you think about it, it's a little weird.
It's a Middle Eastern priest, by the way.
Yeah, so it's like believable. But we were like scared. And then once you get to know them as you get older, you're like, I get why my dad said that. But now there's no accountability to anybody. Just be accountable to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's anarchy.
Yeah, no accountability. That's a huge problem. Everywhere you go, there's no accountability. Anywhere. In home, at school. I mean, if I got hit, if a teacher hit me, the last thing I was going to do was go home and tell my family, my father.
Yeah.
In fact, I encouraged the teachers to hit me instead of calling home. Just go, can I just get hit? Give me a crack, or in the grammar school, the principal had the paddle and go down there and get whacked a couple of times. But when that phone rang at home, and there was a chance it was a teacher, that was something that just went on and on forever. I mean, I couldn't outlive it. Yeah. But again, punch in the face. Yeah. I mean, here, put it this way. Remember the Wild Wild West, the Old West? Okay. You were held accountable, and everybody carried a gun. And you were held accountable for whatever you did. Bring back those days where people are held accountable for what they do. You'll see, that's the only way things are going to change is if that was able to be done. Because there's just too many people that just don't care. They don't, I don't know.
See, and I didn't have that as a kid because my dad was killed. So I had my mom, which obviously it was a rough time for her, so she wasn't handling a lot of it. But I also had the rest of my family, all my aunts. And they were, my family thinks I'm no nonsense. They know my aunts. They were less nonsense than I was. I mean, they took no shit.
Aunts are the best.
Yeah. So it was like I never wanted to disrespect any of them and get in any kind of trouble. Not that I didn't, but.
I said the word yo to my dad once in grade 3. We were in a, did you guys ever have Blockbuster here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So Blockbuster. We were in Blockbuster. I was in one aisle, he was in another. And I learned the word yo at school. I said, yo, Dad. This guy comes around. Boom! Grabs me by my ear, drags me out of the store, gets in the car, doesn't say a word. Mom goes, what happened? Doesn't say a word. We didn't rent anything that night.
Yeah.
I said the word yo. He thought that was like, don't ever address me as like yo.
It's disrespectful. It's like the kids nowadays, brah.
Right.
Dude, I'm not that guy. Don't do that.
I feel like I did it to you this weekend. Sorry.
Yeah.
Have your kids ever said to you, like, hey, bro?
The kids will do that. I'm like, that's not me. Because what I'm going to come back with, I'm going to make you cry.
Oh, my God.
But it's like I tell Sarah, my wife, and I say, we love our kids. You love your kids so much.
Yeah.
It's, they've been added to that list of people that you'll do anything for. And it's like, I never want them to be friends, though. I don't want to be like their best friend.
Well, you can't.
There needs to be that line. Yeah.
Guys, I want to ask you to transition to a more, I want to say, serious topic. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the concept of justice, okay, and how that may have or may have not taken place in your lives. First, what's your definition of justice? And kind of, if you can expand on if you feel like you got justice for what happened in your respective lives. Wow. Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah,
you want to think about what you want to say?
Because I don't even know how to address that.
Yeah. I guess you would, I can't say because I know, so let's go family secrets trial. Family secrets trial's over. They convict everybody, blah, blah, blah. You walk out and first thing everybody wants to know, oh, don't you feel so much better you got justice? And my answer to all of them, they're all standing me, yeah, you know, the whole thing. I said, no. I said, why do you think that was justice? I waited 45 years for anything. Like, where was just, if you have a concept of justice, wouldn't it have been, hey, your dad was killed. Yeah, we arrested this guy a day, 2 days, a week later. That would have maybe been, I don't know, some sort of concept of justice. But when they do it 45 years later, and when they did this, it was just kind of like we heard this and we really want this guy, so we're going to throw him in. Rico, again, we're going to throw him in with everybody else. And we're going to get this family justice. And one of the prosecutors, we did the documentary, we had one of the prosecutors on, and he said, you know, that's just a stupid question. He said, really, it's all they're doing is asking, hey, do you think we did a good job? You know, because I mean, how do you, especially when we started doing the documentary, then we start pulling all of the files, freedom of information, and we start talking to, let's just say, people that we run into or that we met along the way or that were at the trial and they knew who we were and they catch you in the hallway. Hey, let's ride the elevator down together. And then they start telling you stuff. But I think it really hits home when you start going through all the files and all the paperwork and everything that they just presented in court to give you justice, they knew that week that he was killed 45 years later. So I don't, you know,
So I want to,
I guess I don't know how to.
but I want to expand on that just a little
Yeah.
bit, Joey. What's the difference between, like, right now, if there's a murder, let's say a homicide, right? There's going to be an investigation, right?
Sure.
They're going to look into it.
Sure.
They're going to try to find the person. You'd hope, right? And 9 times, maybe 8 times out of 10, they're going to find leads. They're going to follow up on the leads. This probably will happen maybe within like a year, let's say, pretty quickly. Why do you think that didn't happen with your dad's case? Like, was it because they were trying to kind of hold off on evidence and try to build something up to make a bigger case for more people? Like, why do you feel like that didn't happen or justice wasn't really served?
Because there were, as we spoke the other day, and you challenged me on it, because there's a lot of corruption. And back then, the corruption was much higher. So my mom, that was back in the day in 74, she was walking out and there were reporters and stuff like that. And somebody was talking to, I think it was the governor. Do you remember who the governor was back then?
No, I don't.
It was one of the governors, and somebody in the newspaper said, what do you think about Danny Seifert being killed, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I just didn't think I didn't realize he was that important.
Wow.
When they knew that everything hinged on his testimony because the other guy was weak. He was nobody on the stand. They broke him on the stand, and all the guys got away. That was the first trial. They got off with it. I mean, you have to, what my dad was tied to was the biggest skim in history. I mean, it was tied to all of the money coming from the casinos and coming back to their respected areas. He was literally in the middle of that. And to push that a little further, which he wasn't even the one that originally cooperated. There was a guy that was connected, and he was brought in by the guy that was connected. He was approached by the IRS, and he brought that guy in for over 2 years. Wow. So that IRS agent had carte blanche to everything. All the records, all the people, where the monies were going, because they didn't know. And so by the time they did get to my dad for that whole thing, I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You know, they have you dead to rights. There's no wiggle out of that.
That's insane.
Yeah. But circling back to, you know, the justice thing, I never got it. And I don't even know, I couldn't even tell you what it would be that would make me feel like I got justice.
I was gonna ask you that, like, before we go to you, Kurt, for that question, is like some people it's like an eye for an eye. Like if somebody had, I don't know what happened with the person who killed your dad. He got arrested.
Well, it was a group of people.
Group of people.
But everybody pins it on Joey Lombardo.
Right.
When technically Joey Lombardo didn't kill my dad.
Yeah.
He was told to not even be there that day. And he showed up that day because he knew the people that hired the group to go after my dad. They kill everybody.
So they might have
So
went
he
after
knew.
you.
I remember
Well,
you.
they had no
told-
idea I was going to be there, but they knew my mom was
Your mom was
going
going
to
to
be
be there.
Right.
I remember you told
So
us.
actually, Joey's the one that saved me and my mom from being killed. He wasn't even supposed to go that. He was strictly told not to go that day. And there was he went through a lot of BS because of he showed up that day. So it's like you put him on trial 45 years later when technically, I mean, he's the only guy that's still alive. The other guy made it to the indictment, but he died shortly after from cancer. But he was actually one of the guys that killed my dad.
Yeah.
The guy that died. So Joey was the only one that was left. So that's again how the RICO goes.
That's how they did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But what I wanted to get at was, and there's nothing wrong with this. Again, like no judgment, but like if someone had, popped those guys right then and there, and you knew for sure it was those guys, would that have been a form of justice that you would have been okay with, happy about?
You mean if I did it or if somebody else?
Someone
did it?
else just happened to do it.
Oh, if somebody else happened to do it?
Yeah.
To me, it was just that's the life you chose. There's repercussions for things you do. That's the life you chose.
Yeah.
Would I have felt better? I don't know. Probably not. I still didn't have my dad. You're not bringing my dad back.
That's right.
I'm still going through a whole life until my mom got remarried. I'm still going through the most formidable times of my life without proper structure,
That makes sense.
which led me to a completely different world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Kurt?
Well, there's a story that comes to mind when they were doing the sentencing for Family Secrets. I forgot who it was. Somebody called my lawyer and told him, if your client ever wants to see his father alive again, he needs to come to the sentencing. And they even threw out to my lawyer, and if he wants to speak, he can. So I'm torn. I don't know what to do. And what's going through my head is what people won't understand is I wasn't going to ever get a chance to say what I needed to say to my father. I didn't want to do it that way. I did not want it to be that way because that's, first of all, it's not me. I wanted to do it privately, but that wasn't going to happen. So it was either speak, get off each test what you want to get off, or save it the rest of your life. And so I was torn, and I was thinking, okay, and again, with my feeling with the government, the FBI, I was like, if I can do it the way I want to do it, then I'll do it. So I didn't tell them because, well, I wouldn't have told them. The lawyer would have called them and said that I was going to speak, but we waited all the way till the last minute because I did not want them to notify the press that I was speaking, that I was going to speak. Okay. So I waited till the end, and then I had to go in there with my lawyer to talk to the government about, they wanted to see what I was going to say. In other words, if you want to speak, you could speak, but we need to see what you said.
They didn't want to just see it.
Right, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
So they said, after they read it, I wrote it out. After they read it, they said, can we have this to keep in our file? And I looked at my lawyer and I said, do I have to give it to him? And he goes, no. I go, no. I said, let the rest of the court hear it when I say it. And I wouldn't give them a copy of it. And so I went into court. It was such a crazy day that I was torn. I almost walked out of there before. Well, I walked into the courtroom. I had to walk past the press. The press all knew who I was because my father's lawyer pointed me out in court the first day I was there. Mm-hmm. So everybody knew who I was now. And so I walked past. I had to walk past the press, and they were going, "Oh my God, is Kurt's going to talk, or what's Kurt doing here?" Because I had nothing. I stayed out of that trial, the Family Secrets trial, as much as I could, but my father dragged me into it. But so I after I had the piece of paper, I was sitting waiting. I was sitting in the what do I was sitting with the families of the victims.
It's like bench seats. Yeah.
Yeah.
They stick you all together.
And I don't know.
Right
I
in
don't.
the front.
Yeah, and I don't know. You know, I'm just going to sit down, and somebody said, "Well, here, sit over here." And now, as I'm sitting down, there's a table with the FBI, and they're all looking at me, and pointing at me, and whispering. Now my father walks in the courtroom. He's got the, and this is done intentionally. My dad walks in. He looks like a complete old man, which he wants to look. He's looking for sympathy. He's trying to play the judge. He's trying to play the jury. So he's going to walk in like a decrepit old man, right? And he did. And I saw he had the glasses with the tape on him over here. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. This is not me. I can't do this. I thought I could. I can't. And I was ready to get up and walk out. And when he spotted me, if you'd have saw the look he gave me, which the whole court saw, I said, you know what? I'm staying. If he would have looked at me just as a person and didn't like give me dirty looks, and I would have been like, I can't do this to me. This is not me. I'm not going to be somebody I'm not.
What was the look communicating, though?
The same look I got almost my whole life. I want to reach across here and choke you and kill you.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm not leaving. I said to myself, I'm not leaving now. So the government was watching me, and I know they could tell. I don't have a good poker face. So I know they could tell that I was having second thoughts. So somebody came over and moved me closer to the end. So, because I was about 5, 6 people in. And all of a sudden I got moved to like third because they wanted me up there. And I never understood why they wanted me up there. What are they gaining by letting me go up there? And what they wanted to see was, well, I went up there and I read right off a paper. I started reading off a paper because I needed to have it written, because now I was standing in front of the judge, and the judge was here, and I was here, and that table right there, and my dad was on the other side of the table. And he was chained. But I knew that if they let me get through what I got to say, he's probably going to lose it. And because I basically called him out for everything he did to me in my life. And I even had instances written down. But the problem is he didn't let me get through it all. And when he lost it, he started yelling, screaming, he stood up. And I turned around and looked at the judge like, aren't you going to stop this? And the judge was sitting there like this.
Like, enjoying it.
Yeah, they wanted
enjoying it.
That's when I knew, you know what? First of all, I was the monkey in the circus today. They brought me in to get my father to react, because the only other time he reacted like that was, well, I wasn't at the court every day, but I walked in the court one day and I got subpoenaed. My dad subpoenaed me. The government threatened to subpoena me, and my lawyer told him, if you subpoena him, he's going to sit, because if you deny the subpoena, you can be held for 18 months in contempt. The lawyer told him, you subpoena him, he's going to sit, and you guys are going to look horrible, because I came home, I did my time, came home, I don't want nothing to do with that life anymore. You guys are going to look horrible. So they didn't subpoena me. My dad ended up subpoenaing me. But in front of the judge, he lost it, and the judge never stepped in. His lawyer started yelling at me. I got my dad yelling at me. I got his lawyer yelling at me. And the judge is not doing anything to help the situation. So what I ended up doing was I turned around and I started yelling back at him. Because he's yelling at, I'm listening to this like I did my whole life. This man yelled at me every day of my life. For nothing. Now I'm standing here, and the whole point of me being there was because I'm never going to see him again. I got to say what I want to say. I respected the judge. So I turned around and looked at the judge. When I realized he wasn't going to do anything about it, I turned around and started yelling back at him. And I wanted to go over the table at him at that point. And I'm not a tough guy. Don't claim to be. But at that point, the 2 times, that and when he subpoenaed me, I went back in the courtroom, and I was ready. I had to sit close to the front because somebody took my seat in the courtroom just to go outside and get a subpoena. Have somebody subpoena me, come back in, my seat was gone. So now I had to sit in front in the only seat open in the whole courtroom. I had to sit in. It was two or three rows off the front. And he's on stand. My father's on the stand. I got the subpoena in my hand. You're not supposed to go back in the courtroom when you get subpoenaed. Okay? I told the guard, wherever he is, I said, get out of my way. I'm going back in the courtroom. And I literally pushed him out of the way. I said, I was ready. First of all, I was pissed because that guy's the one that called me out here to get subpoenaed. I said, let the guy wait for me to come out of the courtroom. You call me out and you set me up to have me subpoenaed? It just, he started yelling at me, and I was close enough to him that I thought about jumping over the rail there and going after him, because now he wants to put me on the stand. And at that point, it was, if I have to get up on the stand, I'm going to bury him. But they wanted to see how he was. They knew how he was on the street. The judge wanted the court to see how he was as a father. And I was the only one that nobody couldn't get a rise out of my dad the way I did. I don't know why. It's just, and I had to walk out of the courtroom that day with the subpoena in the air, because I was ready to jump over the rail. And if I jump over the rail and there's a mistrial, what's going to happen? I'm going to have nothing but trouble, right? The government, and because I caused it. So I didn't do it. But I thought about, for the first time in my life, I thought about wanting to jump over and hit him.
I wonder if that would have caused a mistrial, because we had so many times during that trial that they were always like, listen, you can't say this, you can't do this. It could cause a mistrial. That was the whole thing, mistrial. There was one time there were so many people waiting outside of the grand courtroom. They're like, there's something wrong with the door. We're going to take all the family members. We're going to take you guys all through the back. And the FBI agents, everybody's standing there. And they're like, but we're going to have to walk down the middle of where all the defendants are sitting. And the FBI agent goes, she goes, we're not going to have any issues, right? And I was like, me? No. We're not going to have any problems. But that was always one of those things that they kept throwing out. Mistrial. I don't think they would have had a mistrial of anything for that. There was so much BS that went on during that.
But if it would have happened, it would have happened when I did something.
Yeah. Yeah, because it didn't happen before when your dad blew up in court. There was nothing with that.
No. And there was a fake bomb put on my porch the day of the jury selection for the trial.
Oh, wow.
And I lived in a suburb. I moved from Elmwood Park, and I moved north to a very nice neighborhood and quiet, and and those people they shut the whole community down. They were literally driving through the town with the truck with the speaker on it, going, everybody get in your houses.
Was that before or after the rats, the fake rats?
That was after.
That was after.
Yeah. I had rats put on my doorstep when I lived in Elmwood Park. Two white rats with nooses around their necks.
Oh, wow.
But the problem was
They were still alive.
They were
That's like
still
something-
alive. They were supposed to be dead.
Still alive.
Yeah, they were supposed to be dead.
So that's
But
obviously
whoever
a
brought
threat.
them couldn't kill them. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a threat to me.
Yeah.
I got nothing to do with what's going on at the trial. But I'm getting threatened continuously. I had letters put on my car, threatening letters. I had, I got followed. I was being followed. And I knew it. And I did it purposely to see, if somebody's following me, because I went places I never went. And there were notes on my car when I came out. So, it was a tough time. It really was, because I didn't forget, I got kids, I got a wife, I got a family. To be threatened that way.
How do you explain that to your wife? It's like, honey, who was at the door?
Well,
It's like, oh,
fortunately, my
two
wife,
little guys.
my wife knew the world, because she was around it, being growing up around her grandfather. So, but they never seen anything like that. So it's like, the rats were supposed to be dead. I know them. I know what that's supposed to mean, because I know what that's supposed to mean. So, but the rats weren't dead, and there was a 3 or 4 page letter in the mailbox about sons and fathers, how sons betray their fathers, and just this whole bunch of crap is what it was. It was definitely my father, and talking about sons and fathers. But the problem I always had is I had nothing to do with any of this.
You weren't the one that betrayed him.
Right, and yet I'm being threatened.
I was going to say, did this happen to your brother or no?
No. Well, here. After I got the rats on my doorstep, he came, and because he lived in Elmwood Park too at the time, he came and got the rats and took them to the FBI. I said, I don't give a shit what you're doing, just get them out of here. And the letter too. So he took it to the FBI. But, God, I forgot what I was just going to say.
Did anyone threaten your brother?
Oh yeah, it was his son's birthday, and they had moved. They moved out not out of state, but in western Chicago, well, not Chicago, the suburbs. They moved to the suburbs, and there was a red balloon, I guess, on somebody tied it on the rail of the door.
Okay.
Because it was his son's birthday, but he got scared and thought somebody was trying to send him a message, and it wasn't long after that he packed up and left and went to Arizona. Wow. And he told me when he came home how he was not leaving. If there was any problems, somebody's got a problem with me, they know where to find me. First sign of something that he thought was directed towards him, he got on a plane and went to Arizona. So I would have never left my family. I would have never left my mother. I would have never left. But I had to deal with the mess that he created, and still do. I still do. Still got to deal with it, because there's people out there that have problems with what he did. I got problems with what he did. So how can I can't get mad at anybody for saying, your brother this or your brother that. Of course, I refer to him as my brother, no, but and I get upset when people talk about my uncle. And when they say, oh, he was the one that did this, he was the, listen, what I don't understand is when you decide to cooperate, tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's all. Don't twist stuff, make stuff up. Tell the truth. You've got nothing to hide. Tell the truth. But some people don't know how to do that.
But your uncle didn't decide to cooperate.
No. Well, no, he didn't decide. He was
a little different.
Yeah. He was put in a position. My uncle would have died in prison for my father. Would have died. That's how loyal my uncle was. But what happened with Junior, and he was. I remember when my aunt called me and said, your uncle wants to talk to you. Is everything okay? And at that time, he was in the witness protection program. And I said, well, do I have to deal with the government? She's like, well, yeah, because they have to okay it. And I'm like, okay. And she said, well, I wanted to, and she talked to me and she explained to me what was going on. And she said, if your uncle understands if you don't want to come see him. I said, I would never not go see my uncle. I don't care what he did or what they're saying he did. That's my uncle. That was a dad. He was a dad to me. And I would never. So I saw him. I used to visit him. And the first time I had to go, the FBI had to fly here, get in one car, to drive me drive me to another car, which was a waste of time because I was on my uncle's side. I was there for my uncle. I would have done anything for my uncle. And but that's the way the FBI does it. And you want to see him, this is what you deal with. And they wouldn't even let us talk alone. When we were together, they wouldn't even let us talk alone. Everybody was in the room. They're like, no whispering. And I'm like, but
no passing papers to each other.
No, but I would have done anything for my uncle. I would have done anything for my family. And he would have done anything for his family. Like I said, that's why I have one of the chips I had on my shoulder with what my dad did to him. How do you do that to your brother? I couldn't do it to a stranger. I'm going to do it to my own brother.
But see, that's why in our previous interview when we spoke, I mentioned that I feel that Frank got a lot of that way of dealing with things or doing things from your dad, because it sounds like you just said, how would you do that to your brother? And you feel and believe that Frank's done something to you. How could you do that to your family? Right? So that's why part of me says, like, he may not want to admit it, because you said something in our episode about when they not classified you, but when they said you had, what's the word for it? The medical phrase. When they...
PTSD.
PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD, but I guess they diagnosed you with that. Is that the right word? Diagnosed you with it? And you said, no, that's not it. It's because I guess that era, like there's no such thing as depression. There's no such thing as PTSD.
Anxiety. Yeah.
Unless you went to war.
75 labels.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's gone to that extreme nowadays, but I feel like your brother may never, or right now hasn't admit that he was a victim too. And imagine coming out and saying, I'm not saying this is the truth or we don't know, but I don't know. But like, yeah, you know what? I was a victim and I lied and I did this, blah, 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 blah. Maybe there's too much pride for that. Maybe there's too much pride for all of that, right?
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at it maybe a little different, that you talking to me and my brother, I would never I would never trick my brother into a situation that I know he couldn't get out of for my benefit. Or same thing, if I had a younger brother, I would never put him purposely in harm's way and not try to protect him.
Same.
Yeah. Just about the PTSD, because there are a lot of people struggling with mental health issues and they're legitimate. What do you find is the most helpful thing that you guys do, either by yourselves or with one another, that helps you process a lot of that trauma?
I mean, for me, it took me a very long time to get comfortable or more relaxed. Put a lot of work into it, you know. Sometimes it's listening. What I found really helped me a lot was finding mentors, which is easy to do nowadays with YouTube and everything. There's always good speakers out there, good motivators. If you find the right motivators, the right speakers, even if you don't listen to everything they have to say, there's still messages in there that you can use for yourself. And for me, it's just making conscious the days that I can, you know, take a second to think before I react. That's the hardest thing for me. But the days that I can do that, a lot of times the stuff that I listen to will say, hey, give it a second, give it 5 seconds, whatever you got to do before you react. That, for me, that helps me a lot. So I'm not much of a reader, unfortunately, but I do listen to a lot of stuff. And that's been really helpful. Finding people that you can talk to, like Kurt, has really been one of the few to almost only person besides my brother that I can really talk to and be unguarded. That's really helpful. Because then it's somebody that can say, hey, I understand what you're saying, and they always add something to it. Like Kurt always has something to add to it, or he can challenge me and say, I guess I understand, but, you know, and push you a little bit to look at yourself. Because I was listening to a guy recently, and very controversial what he said, but he says it's always your fault. It's always your fault. Now, I can't say that in Kurt's situation, but for me, it's usually my fault. If I'm in a situation, it's because how I react to that situation.
Yeah.
But it's taken me an awfully lot of work, and I'm like not even close to being whole. And my PTSD was a lot shorter than anything Kurt's been through. I mean, my story started when I was 4, and then there was a huge gap, and then as I got older, I created my own stuff that I had to deal with. Yeah. You know. And I think it's really hard when you're stuck in, the big thing with PTSD is you're stuck in fight or flight. And with me, it was always fight. Always. And it was a hair trigger, like, fast. Even if you said something to me and just a tone that I didn't like, maybe it wasn't disrespectful, I took it as disrespect. Now we're going to fight. You know? So, yeah, it's just
it was like
on yourself.
It was like a defense mechanism for you at that point.
Yeah, I was mad, you know? And then you get around other people, and that anger and that quick temper and all of that stuff is value to certain people.
Did that ever put you in
didn't help.
Yeah. Did that ever put you in a really, really sticky situation?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you recall the stickiest?
I can, but I can't share it.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's sticky enough to, you don't know if you're going to walk out of it or not.
Life or death.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's serious.
So it's as sticky gets.
Got you.
Yeah.
How about you, Kurt?
Well, Joey's been a huge help, and I'm learning so much from. Joey's an easy guy to talk to, for a lot of reasons, but he's an easy guy to talk to, and when he says, "Hey, look at this," or "Try this," or "Do this," first of all, I know it's coming from his heart. Second of all, I know it's coming from experience. So it's just nice to be able to have somebody that you can do that with, because I really never had that. I really never. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I had that with my uncle, but it was different. It was, you know, my uncle would have, you know, my uncle did everything he could to try to keep. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Keep me out of that life. He did the same thing for Junior, but I'm going to speak for myself. My uncle did. My father punched my uncle in the face when he told him that the kids shouldn't be involved in this. My father punched him in the face. You know, I mean, nobody. I shouldn't say my uncle went to bat, and I watched my uncle get treated the way he was treated by my dad. I had to see that every day, but he treated all of us that way. And, there was a time when, my father, told Junior, you're done. I don't want nothing to do with you no more. Go, be done. I don't need you. Stay away. Which he did. He had all that money to live off of, but so he did. But all that meant was me and my uncle had to pick up the slack, more for us to do. But my uncle said, I'd rather do that. I'd rather do this with you than, with your dad or with anybody else. I'd rather just, and it was nice I trusted him with my life. It was the kind of relationship you'd want to have with your dad. And it never happened, and it was never going to happen. So it was enough to appreciate the fact that I had my uncle. And he dropped everything when I called, and he came. When I had a problem, I couldn't call my father. I couldn't call home, call my uncle. And I didn't have a lot of problems, but, growing up, you get in trouble, but I thank God I had my uncle. Because
I think that's what's helpful for both of us, though, is we're both kind of going through, at different levels, we're going through things. So it's always like, oh, this sounded really good to me, or this resonated with me. We'll send it to each other. Be like, what do you think about it? Or maybe it'll help you, so it's really good to have that rapport, that bounce back and forth where, you really don't get that with people.
No, being comfortable with somebody to be able to do that
Yeah.
is almost impossible. So when you find it, you're just happy to have that, and you respect it, and you have it. You're able to keep it. You're able to grow from it and learn things. And I've learned a ton of things from Joey.
I just love to see people be happy and successful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Everybody's gone through something.
Yeah.
Nothing, is bad, but everybody goes through something.
It rains on the righteous and the unrighteous.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a sidebar, more curiosity for me. I know my answer, but does it ever piss you off that when you see, people on Netflix or on Amazon or, wherever, YouTube, and they're making money off of this genre, but the guys that are doing it, like whoever it is, they were very low level. They never really did the things they talk about. They didn't know the people they talk about. They exaggerate. They create stories. There's a lot of fake people out there, and they're not afraid anymore because, as we've talked about, the persons they're speaking about are dead or really old in prison, and there's really no accountability and there's no consequences, and they're not getting punched in the face anymore. Does it ever piss you off that they're making money off that?
No.
No?
They're good talkers. They got to where they are for a reason. But just remember all those people out there talking, the quality aren't the ones running to everybody's podcast. There's quality out there, and they're not on every single show or whatever. So I don't, they just right place, right time. They talked to they ran a good game, whatever.
Right.
Mm.
Good for them. They're making money. It's not going to last, but good for them.
Right.
It bothers me a little bit when they talk about people's families.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about stuff like that. That bothers me because I don't like that, and it's, I don't know. I don't care that people are making money, and God bless, but I draw the line when people start lying, people start twisting things, when people start making up stuff, and it's harmful to people. And what do you care? Somebody said that. What do you care? Well, it depends on who the person is, and it depends on why they said it.
Yeah, I guess it depends if you know them or not.
Yeah, it's like
I feel like it would bother me, like when I see like realtors, okay, not realtors, but when I see shows about real estate on these networks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, they don't sell any real estate. Like they're paid actors,
Yeah.
and yet it glamorizes the career, which it's not all glamorous. I feel like I'm saying talking about how some you guys talk about the mob. It's not all glamorous. Everybody wants to be a good fella, but they don't see the bad part of it. But it's just real estate. But it's not. It's a career. It's a job, right? It's a career. There's issues that come up. We have a segment on our other podcast for real estate where we talk about what grinds our gears in the industry, what really pisses us off. And when I see them on TV, I'm like, again, you're just sending the wrong message. Like you're not an actual realtor. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But yet part of me gets like, I should be on the show. Like that part of, I don't want to say envy, but it's not envious of them. It's more like, if you want to do a show, do a real show.
Right, because you're the real person.
Let's show them what it's all about. Let's show them the bad times. Let's show them, not like, oh, I listed a property for $5 million and someone offered us 4.5. What do we do? Like it's not, that's all acting. It doesn't go down like that.
Yeah.
There's real behind the scenes stuff. Or what happens when you do a deal for $200K commissions and they don't pay you? Let's talk about it, right?
I can see that with the glamorization of any kind of mob activity or gangs or clubs or stuff like that. Like, it's not a glamorous life. And anybody that's been in the life, they know it's just not glamorous.
So because you're the motorcycle background that you have, motorcycle gang, right? Like I watched Sons
Club.
Club.
I was gonna say,
sorry. I know.
Come
I said
on,
it.
don't say gang.
It didn't
Come on,
sound
man.
right. Take it back. The club.
I mean, the feds. That's their thing. They're trying to. Well, they're a terrorist organization. Well, so are you guys.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
to put them under the legislation,
right?
And all
So
that,
they can just pull more crap of that. So it's a motorcycle club.
And so when I've watched Sons of Anarchy the first time, it's like, oh cool, whatever.
Completely fake.
But then when I watch it the second time, I'm going through the first few episodes and I'm like, this is so evil. Like even whatever they're portraying on TV, betrayals, this, that, whatever they're trying to do to make the show interesting.
Well, that's all they're doing, though. They're just trying to get you to watch it so they make money.
It's entertainment.
That's all, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And I turned it off the second time. I go, I don't need to do this. I feel like there's a evil.
But do you feel like that corrupts you in somehow seeing it?
No.
Or
not that it corrupts me, but that this is doing nothing positive for my life. It's just simply bringing, for me, I believe that sometimes when we watch like a scary movie or something, like think about how somebody produced that movie. Like, how do you wake up one morning and say, I want to do this, and it scares people, and it does this, and it's killing, and blah, 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 whatever. It's evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's evil. So I personally have a belief that sometimes you open the door to evil when you let those things in your life, and you're watching them, and your mind is processing things a certain way. And so, not that it corrupts me, but that evil could happen to me. And so, I turned it off the second time.
Okay.
Now that I had matured, it was years later. I was like, what do I watch? Oh, Sons, I remember it was a good show. The Irish and this and that, right? And then I put it on, I'm like, whoa.
But I think to go a little bit deeper on what you're saying about the evil part, I think the reason why you also might feel that way is because for us, we don't for someone to wake up, let's say, and say, wow, I want to create something that scares the shit out of people. It's not, I don't think that's necessarily a great thing to have. I feel like it's always nice to be a type of person that is more warm and welcoming and, it's more loving and kind. And I feel like those attributes that person may have into creating that kind of loves that, right? And,
even if it's not
thing.
that person, they're not maliciously doing it. They just are interested and they want to create that.
Yeah.
For me, it's more just turn it off. It's not good for me. We all know what a good song and video can make, how it can make you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I'm at the point when I'm going on Instagram and I'm looking at some reels, I'm questioning every single video because I'm they know how to play with your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to manipulate, right? So the reason, from a monetary perspective, it pisses me off that they have a financial gain, but I'm not looking at it from that perspective in terms of a point of envy because we're okay, we do well for ourselves. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of whatever you're putting out there has negative consequences to other people. You might have somebody that changes career paths, wants to become a realtor, gives up something that they don't realize how good they have it, come into this space and fail miserably and can't support for their family.
Sure.
Right? Or when you create a really cool mob movie, it's funny because Sopranos, so fake, but in that movie, there's one scene in the later seasons where Tony's kid, goes, "You never loved me. You never cared for me." He goes, "What do you mean? I did everything." He's like, "Well, what about when we watch, you wanted me to be like this, when we watched Godfather and Michael did this and took revenge?" He goes, and Tony looks at him and goes, with tears in his eyes, he goes, "That's a movie."
Yeah.
Even the fake show, acknowledged that, right? So it's like, people can watch this stuff and then just take it a certain way and say, "I want to be like that."
But you can look at an organization like that, any kind of organization. You can look at outfits, street gangs. You can look at motorcycle clubs. If you just want to look at those organizations, let's maybe reluctantly bring the church in there too.
Wall Street.
Wall Street. You can bring in any of those organizations, and they can be not all bad. But let's face it, you're going to get a bad person once in a while.
Of course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What part of Sons of Anarchy was unrealistic? I thought it was based
Guy
off the
loves that
real
show.
thing.
Well, so let's take it this way. So one of the writers was Kurt Sutter, but then there was another writer that he actually came on and did a lot of on-set stuff, and he was actually Hell's Angel.
Okay.
So they have the mentality and the writing ability. Both of them are writers. So they had that mentality and they had the writing ability to say, "Oh, it was really cool. Yeah, we were riding down the highway and we had 75 bikes and we went to this bar and we were drinking." Maybe that's what happened in real life. But then they're like, but when we're writing it for a TV show for everybody to be like, "Wow, that's a cool show. Let's add in, the Irish came in and then we all started shooting and then we blew the bar up." Something, then they add something to it to make it more like, you know what I mean?
Attention
Hollywood,
grabbing.
And let's face it, who knows? Who knows? When was the last time you rode with the Outlaws or the Hells Angels or anybody like that?
It's a long
Or
time
hung
ago.
around with them.
It was a long time ago for me.
Right. So you, so you don't know.
You don't
so
know.
it's just something to get people like they don't know.
Yeah.
Kurt, did you guys ever get involved with motorcycle clubs back in that life?
I knew some guys that were involved in the motorcycle club, but no, I didn't.
Was there a mutual respect? How does that
They work
dynamic
together.
work? They work together?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
And but not one side wouldn't tell the other side what to do. It was kind of more of a mutually beneficial kind of arrangement, I'm assuming.
I think that's how it always starts out.
Yeah. Supposed to be that.
It doesn't
way.
always end that
And it
way.
doesn't always end that
Yeah.
way.
Let's
that way
create a
doesn't end
win-win.
Yeah.
Let's create a win-win.
Because there's also different levels in those groups of trust and how they expect things to get done.
Okay.
So there's, let's work together until we don't.
Got it.
Right.
I was just thinking, in the show, in Sons. I know it's not.
Yeah.
This, but how they teamed up with the cartel, the Cali cartel or whatever. I was thinking, I'm is that happening in real life, right?
Well, the cartel, sure.
Yeah,
Who's stronger than the cartel?
it's true.
The federal government? They're not even stronger than the
Oh,
cartel.
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Do your kids now, are they, I don't want to say fully, I'm sure, but are they more aware of your backgrounds and upbringing now? The stuff we share here, you've sat them down, had those conversations, or?
They're aware of a good part of it. With my kids, I always said, you can ask me anything you want to ask me. Just make sure you want to know the answer. Because once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Mm.
There's things that I've done that I would not want you to do yourself. So you have to really want to know that because it's going to change your view of me and how you see me.
I did an interview with a local news station back when the book, Junior's book came out. And the guy I did the interview with is not very well liked by people in our world. But I agreed to do an interview with him. And there was one thing that was off limits. I told them, anything you want to ask me about, you can ask me about. But there's a certain thing that's off limits. We're not going to talk about. And it was something pertaining to my wife's family, ex-wife's family. So, gotta get my train of thought back.
About your kids knowing everything.
So I told my daughter I was doing this interview and it was going to be on the news, and they agreed to me to, they did over an hour interview, but they only do the clips on the news.
Okay.
So I asked him, I said, agree with me that you'll put it on the website when you're done, the whole interview, so everybody can see everything that was said, instead of the pieces that you put on the, because they can edit it and make you look really bad.
For sure.
So I told my daughter, I said, because it was, everything had happened and the case and everything, and she said, Dad, because she was in high school at the time. I think she was in high school. And I said, you want to come? Do you want to come to the interview? And she's like, do you mind? I said, I don't mind. I said, but there's going to be things talked about that you're not aware of. I said, so would you rather you hear them out of my mouth in the interview, or we could talk about it after? And she said, no, Dad, I want to be there. I said, okay. I took her out of school, and she came to the interview. And I think she was better off because of it. I think there were some things that she was relieved about. But my life's been, I'm not going to say it's been an open book, but it's been since the Family Secrets trial, my life has been an open book. So it's on the newspaper every day. It was and again, it wasn't me, but it was, here, the trial, they took a video of me walking in the door, in the building, the federal building. They showed that every night, that clip. And I was like, and my kids are like, Dad, you don't wear a different shirt when you go? I said, they just keep showing the same clip. And I did everything in my power not to get on, but they had cameras set up and you didn't even see the cameras.
Oh, they would chase you.
In the federal building.
The whole front of the federal building is glass. Wow. As soon as you get off the elevators, they're walking outside through the glass, shooting you.
That's crazy.
Chasing you to the parking lot.
I feel like it makes sense, in terms of being completely open with your kids, because kids are resourceful. They're going to end up researching and finding it out anyway, so you might as well just tell it to them all.
Well, that's why when the trial started, I sat down with my ex-wife now, but that was my wife then, and said, listen, I'm going to be all over TV, all over the newspaper. I'm going to have to tell the kids,
Yeah.
And they were young. They were in middle school.
Wow.
But
that must have been
so then I waited,
a little bit more challenging than
definitely
high school.
More challenging because they're understand, what's going on. And then, as they got older, and especially now with everything with the book and the documentary and everything, they come to the shoots, and it's pretty open now. But opposite of Kurt, mine was a closed book until the trial, until Family Secrets trial. They had no idea. Yeah, it purposely kept them in a different world for that.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
kids are innocent. Right?
You have to protect them as much as
they didn't need to know that stuff. My mom was already remarried, so they had no idea that was their grandpa. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But better coming from you guys directly.
Sure.
Once everything became public. Yeah.
Well, that's why when I talk to my kids, I want them to hear what I have to say, because I'm not going to lie to them. Mm-hmm. It's the truth. And whether it's good or bad, it's the truth. I want you to know the truth. You learn from the truth. You learn how not to make mistakes from the truth.
Yeah.
But you got to have somebody telling you the truth.
Sure.
If somebody's lying to you and not telling you the truth, you don't know what you're in store for. But and they all, my kids saw the rats on my doorstep. My kids saw the bomb on the porch.
Wow.
They seen things, so you gotta explain, what happened, and are we safe? Are we safe? Yeah, we're safe.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I told them, this was years later. I'm like, you guys have no idea. I told you about this whole thing because I was going to be on TV and in the newspaper, but you have no idea. I had to have the FBI go to their school to make sure that nobody would take them out of school or anything. And I'm living in a North Shore community that's kind of, I'm sure they don't have the feds walk into their school, all the time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of it was kind of a big deal.
Do they deal with your kids, either of your kids, do they deal with any trauma themselves?
Oh my God, anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sorry, relating to what you've told them or what they've experienced, the rats and stuff, that's a little.
Well, my youngest didn't see that stuff. And she's the one that didn't know my dad that she had a grandfather. So I kind of kid glove her with stuff, because she has anxiety, and I have it, and it's it's not a good thing. And but I worry about her every day because she's learning more about the anxiety. She's talking to someone. She sees someone. So she's learning how to deal with it better. I worry more about her dealing with it than she does about her dealing with it. Because, I mean, it's your kids. You know, anything that happens to them affects you. They're hurt, you're hurt. If they're, you know, that's how we lived. That's how we were raised. I mean, you never lose it. If it really went on, you never lose it. To me, it's like an abused child. They say, well, an abused child is going to abuse their child. I don't believe that, because I believe if you were truly abused, you know what that feels like. You never forget that. And when someone says, to me, it's an excuse. Someone's, well, it's like me saying, well, I go home and now I beat my kids because look what my dad did to me. I don't know any better.
I think it can happen if you don't take charge of breaking the cycle yourself. Like if you were abused by your parent, I believe that you could go and be an abusive parent yourself unless you break the cycle yourself and change that cycle, which is sometimes it's really difficult for people to do.
I had a hard time disciplining my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, really hard time. Because I did not want to step over the line that was stepped over with me. Yeah. It's like, you know, I want to give them a little smack in the butt. I'm like, nah, I mean, they did. I mean, I'm lucky they were good kids, so I didn't have to think about that. But I thought about it every time I had to discipline them. Yeah. It's like,
see, you always second guess yourself.
Stop.
That's like a healthy fear, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's a good thing.
Like you could have went the other way, right? You could have went the other way, but the healthy fear kept you from crossing that line, just in case.
I can't even picture.
Or it could have went the other way, completely abusive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Any final words, guys? I'm so happy we did this.
This was amazing.
This is an exclusive. Any final words to our audience, or what you want to leave people with?
You want to leave them with the project?
Yeah.
We're actually starting to work on a project together, which should be coming out in a month or so.
It's exciting.
Cool. Yeah. What's it about?
Any little tidbits you give us? Any little golden?
How you guys volunteer in the community?
Yeah.
Give us a little snippet.
Just dealing with everything that we've dealt with and growing up and how we made it through and trying to be positive and put positivity out there to help other people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I like that.
The world needs more of this.
Yeah.
It does need more positivity. It needs more leaders.
Yeah.
Mentors.
Any advice for anyone watching this right now that maybe didn't have any fathers to look up to or didn't have any fathers growing up? Anything that you guys have learned in your journeys that you would love to share with them?
For me, it's find a positive role model. If you don't have a father, find the next best thing. But it has to be a positive role model. It could be somebody that it might not be somebody that you know personally, but it could be somebody that you look up to on YouTube, watch their channels.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. Any advice for anyone that's looking for, maybe they don't have the greatest role models in their house or, don't have anyone? What would you recommend doing to help?
I don't know if I'm in a position to give any advice. So I'm still struggling with every day. I hope that we can help people. That's the only goal I really have. If somebody said, "What do you want from life from here on in?" It's to help people. Is to have somebody look at you and say, thank you, and oh my God, really? How should I handle? To be able to help them, to have them get up, walk away, a better person than when they sat down with you. That's, it's a rough. We live in rough times, and we're missing love, we're missing God, we're missing a lot of things, and I hope it changes. But I don't know how I'm feeling about that right now. But
let's end off on a positive note.
Yeah.
Brighter days are ahead.
Yeah.
It's what we choose every day we wake up. We make a choice. Who said it yesterday? We make a choice. Mm-hmm. On one of the episodes. Mario.
Yeah.
Said every day you make a choice. You're either going to pick up the pipe or you're not. You're either going to go out, commit an act, a felony, whatever, or not. You're going to read your Bible or you're not. You're going to pray, you're not. You're going to, right? So positive choices. I'm so happy we did this. I really am.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thanks
being
again,
open to
guys.
doing it.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate
Yes.
you guys so much.
And whoever watched to the end, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say next time we're coming to you.
Please,
You're
come.
always very welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's a place to stay for
We're
sure.
bringing the boss with us too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bring the boss.
On the go.
Yes.
Fashion team on the go.
Guys, if you watch to the very end, we thank you. Leave us a comment. And until next time, we're out.